In order to make this kit, we are going to need the following items. One pair of magic gloves, the kind of stretchy kind like this. You know, one size fits all. We're going to need stuffing, not too much. I mean, substantially more than this size, but probably, you know, a basketball size piece will do. You'll need a needle. You'll need sewing thread, embroidery floss, felt for decorations. What you see here before you is a set of Glovetopus that were made over the past 5 or 6 years. This is the first Glovetopus I ever made, the OG, if you will. Gosh, his beak is coming off. Looks like we need to give the OG some love. These two were made while watching Downton Abbey. I think you can probably see the resemblance. And this is just a great Glovetopus. I love these striped gloves. And his eyes look kind of wild, don't they? There we go. I love these striped gloves. I think this is a great looking Glovetopus. I like how large and filled out he is. It's a nice one. And he also has this little hat. It's real easy and fun to make hats for these guys. So this is the pair of gloves we're going to use, and this is the thread we're going to use. Usually when you sew a Glovetopus, you would use sewing thread. But for this example here, I'm going to use embroidery floss because it'll be of higher contrast and it'll be a lot easier to see while I'm sewing it. Hopefully that'll make it easier for you guys. When I do this, I mean, for these circumstances, I'm doubling it over and tying the end off, as you would with regular thread. However, unlike regular thread, you can't really count on a knot to hold the thread in. Let me just do that again, just for emphasis. See, your knot just won't hold. So what you do is you have to do a special kind of stitch. The first stitch is the anchor stitch, and it's the first stitch I ever do in a Glovetopus. I make a little tiny stitch, pull it almost all the way through, and see how there's this loop left? You go back through that loop. And that is called, that's my anchor stitch. And that's not going to go anywhere. And then you just start sewing. If you're finishing it off, I would finish it off by doing a couple more little stitches through the knot. All right, now I'm going to draw where you sew. And you can do this too because the inside won't show when you finish your Glovetopus. And these aren't markings where you're supposed to put the stitches. This is just a marking of the direction the stitches go. So for my first stitch, I'm going to start in the back and come through just of one glove. And you start here at the top of the pinky, and then you're going to sew up along this curve and then down this curve over here. So anchor stitch through the loop right there. Perfect. Now I'll go through So one thing that I'm doing differently than you would do if you were making a Glovetopus yourself is since I'm using embroidery floss for the thread, the stitches are very big. They're long stitches, and you have to And that doesn't make for the most attractive Glovetopus. But so you just sew up the side. No big deal. And I'm going to stop a little early because I made too many marks on there. I want the gap, I want this gap right here to be longer. All right, so when you finish, you pull your stitches tight, and you do an anchor stitch. So what I'm about to do now is I'm going to go across the gap. This gap needs to stay open because you stuff the stuffing in through the armhole into that area that you're making right here. So okay, so what I do is I sew across the gap, but I don't go too deep, and then as soon as I get across, I do an anchor stitch. Okay, whatever. All right, so that's sewn. Now I'm just going to start doing my running stitch down the other side of the body. And these stitches can be raggedy, they can be terrible. They just need to be, but as long as they're tight, because no one will see this part of the Glovetopus. I was thinking about it the other day, and I've made hundreds of Glovetopus over the years, and I just love making them. I think that it's such a fun, quick little project. You can really, and then once you're done, you can decorate it. Like, you can just go crazy with decorations if you want. We're not going to go crazy with decorations in this one, but we will try to do something. So thread or do a stitch, go through the other side, and you're done. Give it one extra stitch just for clarity. Clarity, that's the word. Safety. So now you see the stitches. I've just gone up one side and down the other, leaving a hole in the top so you can stuff it. That actually, I just realized that this hole is too small, so I'm going to cut this line. I've tied it off on both ends, so it's safe to do so. It was just faster to jump the gap and keep going. We have sewn the two gloves together, and now we are going to do the stuffing. We're going to start by stuffing the fingers, and then we're going to stuff the rest of the body. So the way I stuff the fingers is I take a piece of stuffing, and I kind of ball it up in my hand, and I kind of get it about the size of my fist. Maybe a little smaller sometimes. You do not stuff the thumbs. The thumbs are going to come off later. So my strategy for doing this is I hold the glove with one hand, and then I push with my other thumb to get it in there. And I just really get my thumbs in there. All right, those fingers are pretty well stuffed. I like the way they're stuffed. See how this one kind of comes in at the end? That means it's not that the stuffing isn't quite enough. There isn't quite enough stuffing in there. So I'm going to put a little more in, just to shore that up. Okay, now we're going to stuff the body. The body's not much different. I take a bigger piece of stuffing. This is probably too much. This Glovetopus isn't super big. So this is how it's looking. So now we need to sew the gap shut. So we're just going to sew along this top of this stuffed area up here, and just kind of stay close to it and curve that top, so we can make the body of the Glovetopus. I start off with an anchor stitch. One little stitch through. Pull almost to the end. Go back in. And you got it. And so now I'm just going to go back and forth. Pull tight with every stitch. All right. One more anchor stitch, and we're done with sewing this beast. That didn't take too long. Little stitch, almost through the loop. Just do it again. All right. So you don't have to cut the top of the gloves off, the top and the sides. It just makes it a little bit less lumpy if you do. So I'm going to. I just try to get the majority of the material off. I don't try to get too close to the stitches. Magic gloves don't fray, as far as I know, but yeah, it's fine. It's a little closer than I would like to get. I did it on the last one too. That's the way it is. All right. Here we are. These thumbs are ridiculously small. I love it. Or these pinkies. All right, so you've got this thing. It's, it's almost done, but you're like, what is it? It doesn't, I guess it looks like an octopus, but it's just so messy. It's got all this stuff. Well, the last step, you put your hands in the middle and push up. And there, you've made a Glovetopus. Ta-da! Pretty fast, pretty fun. We're gonna decorate it a little. And so we have some felt for that. my two sclera. And I'm going to do a green iris for him. So this real pretty green I'm gonna make the eyes with. I've gotten a slightly more normal sized needle. When I sew, when I hand sew, I usually take a piece of thread about the length of my arm. When you get any longer than that, it seems to tangle with itself quite easily. So I start off over here with an anchor stitch. I'm going to sew these pupils to the sclera and see if I can make it a little decorative with this pretty shiny green thread that I've found. I'm going to sew around the edges of the pupil, see if that kind of makes it shine a little bit. There you go. We got a Glovetopus. He's pretty cute. I like him. I think his eyes are sweet. I wish I had sewn them both the same way. Some of the stitches go radially on this one, and they go in a circle on this one. It's okay. I think I would make a hat for him. So that's our Glovetopus. I hope you enjoyed. If you found anything of value in this video, I would ask you to go and hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe even notifications. Click the little bell after you hit subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you would. Thank you very much.